People, especially those come from the west side of the world, they believe that selling in Saudi is easy. It's going to be easy. We know all the thing. We have the knowledge. We're coming from the most advanced part of the world. It's not easy. If you go to our second article, which is the journey from the entry to Saudi to all the way to big bucks, it's not easy to sell in Saudi, by the way. Everybody is here is trying to sell. It's very competitive. So landing does not mean always that you can easily sell. You need to understand how to sell in Saudi. And selling in Saudi is really a big issue. And one of the things I found, and this is advice for everyone coming, please don't underestimate the value of having a Saudi GM.
This is the 966.
Hello, welcome to the 966 episode number 130, a nice big round number. I'm your host, Richard Wilson, and I hope you caught our previous episode, number 129, talking about the Saudi film scene 6 years after cinemas were reopened after a 35-year hiatus. A great conversation with Todd Albert Nims on the sector, how it's grown, what still needs to be done. I recommend it to you. I'm really excited not only about today's guest, but also today's topic, which is what you need to know when you set up a business in Saudi Arabia. Our guest is Saeed Al-Ansari, who is the founder and CEO of Tawaref, a Saudi Arabia-based tech investment community that also provides startup advisory, legal consultancy, and due diligence support. Tawaref, in collaboration with Wamda, which is a well-known media site, and it's a venture capital firm that invests and supports entrepreneurs in the MENA region, has produced what I think is a rather extraordinary series of articles examining how to establish a business presence in Saudi Arabia. Lucky for us, today we get to talk with Saeed about this series and all that needs to be considered if you are thinking of doing business in Saudi Arabia. Saeed, hello. Welcome to the 966.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here. The first thing I want to talk is I love your 966 as a number. The first time I met you, it was amazing to know there's a channel called 966.
Well, it's been fun, in the run-up to this discussion, because you and I have talked a lot. We've talked about the series. We talked about, how to put this together. And I want to get into that series because it's really valuable, and I haven't seen anything else like it. But before we do that, can you tell us a little bit about Tawaref, what it is, what motivated you to establish it?
So again, thank you, Richard, and thank you for everyone listening. Hopefully I can add some value to your series of valuable talks that I've heard myself, a couple of people. So Tawaref is a Saudi startup company established in 21 back. We started our journey as a syndicate investment platform, kind of the largest network of angels in Saudi. More than 200, 300 investors investing in tech. A bit selective in our selection. And then we keep adding services on top of Tawaref on that angel investment. So now we have the way we structured Tawaref is it's an investment house, as you mentioned, but it also has a lot of consulting and legal services that complement our investments. So on investment side, we don't have any more angels. We also have institutional investors, corporate VCs, family offices in the region, outside the region, who want to invest in the region for early stage tech startup. We're going all the way from pre-seed all the way to A. That's our core business, actually, I would say. What happened in 23, because of money reasons, the economy reasons, recessions, but also too much of demand that people were getting in our investment platform. We learned a hard way that only being investment or investor as a passive investor will not be enough. We need to be more active with our portfolio companies and with non-portfolio companies that want to come to Saudi. As you know, Saudi is booming, Vision 2030, everything is there. And the people looking for someone on ground to help, to support. And this is where in 2023, actually, only on late 2022, the idea of consulting or services arm came in. And we sit with a lot of VCs. Almost every VC knows me, every Angel Group or Accelerator. We work with them when we collaborate. we sit together. Okay, what are the core services that you might be looking for to help both the companies, SMEs, and startups, established companies. And we came up with a list of services, and I think that's where we picked up. One of those services is Saudi landing, or the legal setup of the Saudi landing that we do. But we do a couple of other services now. We help in recruiting co-founders, recruiting JPs of VCs. We help in, I'll tell you in while we talk about a couple of things we are doing on site, but it's a bunch of services. And now at the moment, we're about to announce the marketplace, where if you need a consultant in Saudization, you can get it. If you need a consultant in sales, you can get it. If you need recruiting consulting, you can do it. We're building a marketplace, maybe one-stop shop for anyone who wants to come to Saudi. So that's kind of the big picture of Tawaref.
That's really interesting because is there anybody else doing this in the kingdom? And I say that because there's plenty of investment groups, and this sounds like an interesting collection of investors, a whole range of types of investors. And as you say, it's pre-seed to A, so you're plugging in all along the line. There's also any number of incubators, setups and entities that are helping startups, begin. But you're doing both.
So what the way we see ourselves, we are not a typical accelerator per se, that you have to come in a program, there's the in and out, there's an intake and outtake. You're not a venture builder. You're not even a typical VC, actually. I think we come very close to what we call the virtual accelerator model, where you can cherry pick the services that you want, and you don't have to go a full program. So if you look at the accelerator and incubator, there are a couple of services they bundle together to help you to accelerate, or the venture builder, right? The way we do it, we broken down those services into each service, and then you can cherry pick one service that we want. What we found out, Richard, is most of the good startups, those coming Extreme or top consulting firm or Excel, where I used to work, they don't want to go an accelerator for many reasons. Accelerators, for some reason in the region at the moment, are not taking the hype from the tier one startups. What we're looking for, and at the top startups comes to us, and we find out the best model for those startups, and not just startup. We work with a lot of enterprises and SMEs and typical. They want to cherry pick a service. They want a legal consultant, and they need cheap. They need it cheap. They need it fast. They need an auditor, and they need it fast, and they need it quality. They need a fundraising. So these are like 17 services all in all. I cannot do all of the services, but there are like 17 services all in all that people are looking for, and we try to make up one-stop shop. So, for example, one example, let me get a lot, by the way. There are more than 30 entities in Saudi, I think 30 plus, who are giving grants in Saudi. Starting from the tech ones like NTTB and others, but there are more than 30, by the way. And by the way, next week is the week of investment. The whole country is talking about a lot of investment. There's no one-stop shop for all of them. If I am an agri-tech and I want to know what the agriculture funds are there and what their criteria, and I can apply to one platform, it's not there. So that's the vision we are coming with, that can have a one-stop shop for many things. Hopefully this vision will see a light in one day.
Fascinating. So let's talk a little bit about the series in Wamda. And this makes sense. You're talking about your decision that you needed to be a one-stop shop. You needed to expand your offerings, and you needed to make it sort of available on a menu basis. You can pick this, you can pick this, you can leave the rest. But so the Wamda series, and Wamda is a really well-regarded publication. How did that start? Did they come to you? How did this work out? And for your listeners and viewers, I'll include links to this Wamda series. There are eight articles now that have been completed. They're all good, and they cover a whole range. But anyway, how did this connection? How was this established?
I think it's a combination of both, actually. So we were looking for that, and they were also asking that Wamda, and I thought about Wamda. They are very well-known publication. I think it's better that they answer. I think there was a need for us to let the people know, because we get a lot of hits from the startup we are helping. Actually, one step back, before we started offering Saudi lending as a service, like 1 year at least, we helped a lot of our portfolio for free. So from helping those for free, we got a lot of answers that we thought this answers could be in articles, and we can help a lot of people. And then we were, one of our partners actually was Wamda Capital, not Wamda R publication. They're two R's. So I asked Wamda Capital, do you think this is something that maybe fascinates Wamda publication? And then we met. And it sounds like everybody was looking at that time for someone, like everybody was asking about something about Saudi, authentic, and in English. So that was the gap that was there. A lot of article here in Arabic, but something authentic by a company who can put their brand on it, and something more procedural, a tactical, a steptual, that could be telling people to how to do it, was something that they were looking for. And of course, this was a pleasure, honor to be on Wamda and write those articles on Wamda. So we were happy and looking for it.
I imagine it's gotten a great response. So just for our listeners, this series is billed. It's intended to, quote, provide valuable insights and guidance on various topics such as legal and regulatory requirements, key challenges, tips and tricks, how-to manuals, sector-specific information, and opportunities for growth, showcasing the key hubs, do's and don'ts, common missteps, and incorporation detail, facts that save money, unquote. I love that last part, facts that save money. We were talking beforehand, and like I said, I'll list the 8 articles and their titles. But we were talking about trying to identify the 5 sort of things that most common missteps. And I don't want to box you in with just 5, because you were talking about, you had examples. But can you tell us some common mistakes? Everybody's flocking to Saudi Arabia. Everybody thinks there's business to be made. Let's go. Let's set up business. And in fact, there's been regulatory reforms that make it easier. Access is much greater than it used to be. But what mistakes are made in this process?
Yeah, I think I would start with the last part, which is the good one, best one, which is the government has gone a long shot, and there's still a lot have to come. I'm very close to some part of the government, so they're doing an amazing job. I think before it started challenges, no government, I think, with 1 or 2 exceptions, you have to go through 13 government agencies in the whole process. No government take more than 2-3 days to respond, right? Except 1 or 2, but I think 10 of them give you a response within 2 or 3 working days. That's amazing, to be very frank. And that's lead to the challenges. If every government is working so efficient, then where's the problem? Why people are stuck? What's going on? What's going wrong? Why people are so much going in the round and circles, and they're not able to open a company? And I've seen cases where 6 months. I got cases where I'm talking 2 months with a lot of people, and then they're still lost. And I talk to many governments these days. So I'm talking to Korean, Chinese, a lot of GCC government, Jordan, Egypt. So I would be talking on government level, helping that like 30 companies from X country to come to Saudi. It's a bulk thing now, not just one individual. So number one issue, I think, and I think people know this issue, and government knows this issue, but it's scattered over 13 government agencies. So the big picture is missing. Everyone comes to me like, Richard, like sometimes after 2-3 months of research, Saeed, where to start? What's the first step? What's the last step? I know everybody is efficient, but how? Is this the one-stop shop kind of thing? No. So that's the problem. If you know where to go next, it's like moving the file. If you know where to go next, you can do it yourself. If you live in Saudi and you have the patience to live, a lot of people ask me, can I do it myself? Yeah, of course you can do it yourself. If you live in Saudi, you are patient to have a lot of trial and error and go visit physically yourself, you can do it. It's not rocket science, by the way. It's just opening a company. It should be much easier than this. But unfortunately, at the moment, the problem is you have to go through 7, 8, 10 agencies, all in all. So the big picture is missing. Most of the people don't know how much time, how much money, what are the requirements. You know requirements of each entity. Now, alhamdulillah, MISA is super active, Ministry of Investments. They're super overspoken. So like everybody know the requirement of MISA. But after the MISA, they go what I call in dead value. They go into something that they don't know what to do. So number one problem is, so a lot of people come to me, Saeed, the ex-lawyer told me that's going to be 1 month to open a company. Yeah, it could be 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But there's whole pre-work need to be done. And there's whole post-work need to be done. To get the iqama, to get the bank account, opening a company is a small part of the whole process of being fully compliant. It's like 18-step process, takes 4 to 5 months. So that's number one issue here.
So when somebody comes to you, and you put your finger on something that becomes very clear in these articles, and it's one thing to open up, it's one thing to do the legal necessaries to establish your business. It's another thing to staff it, to do all the HR requirements and comply with all the regulations in terms of having employees on the ground.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting because your series goes from A to Z. I mean, from setting it up to here's how you put people on the ground. This is how you deal with the gammas and health and all this sort of thing.
So the way I divide it into 4 parts, and many of the people forget the 3 parts out of 4. They just know the second part. So the journey starts at your home, by the way, where you need to get all your paperwork attested by Saudi embassy and foreign affairs in your country. And I work at least with 10 countries now. Some countries take it 2 weeks, some countries take it 6 months to attest the papers. So it's all, people forget this part that is very focused on your country because you need to attest a lot of documents before even you start, right? And now, alhamdulillah, you're offering attestation in Dubai, in Egypt, in Pakistan, I think in Singapore. So we are also covering the attestation part because we saw a lot of people stuck in attestation. I have a South African company. Hopefully they are listening to me. They've been stuck for 4 months now to attest the paper. 4 months just to attest the paper, and we released this 3 times, and it's still taking some time because of mistakes. So that's the first part, which is the attestation part. Once the documents arrive to Saudi, then we start the incorporation process, which takes 3 to 4 to 6 weeks. It's a very small part. Once we finish the second part, most of the people just look at the whole picture, just in incorporation. They forget the attestation. Once you have this company established, and you go iqama and bank, which take another month. And then only you go for all the kind of registration, which is like VAT and tax and social security. And so these are 4 parts of the journey: the attestation, incorporation, iqama and bank, which is resident, and then all the other registrations. So this whole journey takes kind of 4 months that I mentioned, right?
The whole journey, all 4 parts?
All 4 parts take 4 to 6 months. Yeah.
And how does that, in your experience, and you said you've dealt with a lot of other countries, how does that compare with other countries?
So I know my own personal experience in 1 or 2 countries where I have my own company, but I think the complexity comes when so incorporation is very easy, by the way, and very simple, very straightforward, getting very automated, by the way. The real challenge comes when you come on the labor side with Saudi. When you start hiring your first iqama, if you have 2 co-founders, then 2 iqamas, and that challenge of having 2 iqamas, and then you have to hire a Saudi, and then the cost goes very much higher. And that's I think the last article we issued is the operational cost of labor. If you want to have a labor, and we did a comparison of having Saudis and non-Saudis and how this affect your operational cost. The real number, actually, we give real number of 2 case scenarios. So that's the direct point. I've seen people taking, especially publicly listed companies, taking 3-4 months to get open bank account. Bank account take a bit of time. So that's I think a lot of people are stuck in the labor side of the game.
And that came through in the series that you did. And another thing that came through is there's a lot of people charging a lot of money to do this.
Yeah. So Yeah, I know this is a big thing in the market. So two things here, Richard, and we're very frank from both sides. And I try to be mediator rather than kind of play one side favor versus other. Number one is we publicly mentioned this, right, in one of the articles about the hard cost of Saudi. The
Mm-hmm.
government fee for a typical company, but now like if you're a hospital or your factory, you need certain extra licenses. But I'm talking a traditional business, which doesn't require extra licenses. The government fee for one ikama, one company, small companies, around 20,000 riyal. And we mentioned this in the publicly because a lot of people asking this question. Because now the question is, what's going on in the market of setup on the setup industry, I want to call. There are three categories of setup industry, right? There is freelancers who are doing it as a one-man show, and they're charging anywhere 15,000 real on top of the 20,000, which is the hard cost. And then there's a boutique like us who are charging anywhere from 20,000 on top all the way to, I would see 60,000 or 50,000 on top of the amount. And this is for 4 months of work. And I'm not defending myself, but it's a 4 months of work with a lot of physical visits, by the way, from lawyers. So I think the cost is the cost element that people don't understand. And there's an issue also here because some of the neighbor countries are much easier to establish company, the whole process. People believe that it's the same thing here. And number one. Number two, also, most of the countries surrounding Saudi have lower living standard than Riyadh. Riyadh is very expensive now. It's getting more and more expensive. So
Mm-hmm.
people understand also the cost element. And actually, this is one of the challenges that usually I see. It's a poor planning of financial and time for coming to Saudi. And I would say, I don't want to say a good number or a bad number. What's the fair price? There are multinational who are working with a lot of multinational companies that are charging anywhere from 100 plus thousand real, 100, 150. I've seen up to 300 by very rare cases. But then there's a all different package. I would say this is, and please, this is my personal opinion. This is not a public opinion. This is just Saeed opinion. I would say something between 45 to 60 is a good amount all in all, just for opening a company. This is excluding the attestation cost. Attestation cost could go like $4, 5, $7,000 in Dubai. So that's another cost you have to plan on it. And there's a third cost, which is the visa cost from the embassy, because the embassy charges extra amount for or the agent of the embassy based on the country you are. There's specific cost. So there are three element of the cost. And one of the key challenges, which we are talking about, key challenges. Most of the people, especially early stage startups, right, which are very much on the cost, they don't plan for the whole thing. I have a startup now who got stuck because he didn't count it as that station cost, and all of a sudden there are $4,000 or $5,000 that you have to pay more, which cannot pay. So that's kind of the one of the challenges I would say have to do with the pricing. People don't properly plan for the financial as well as for the time expectation. I have a case now. He's keep pushing me. Said I need the company within 2 weeks because I promised them my board that it's going to be open in 2 weeks. I was like, but why you promise the board? What should I do if you have promised the board? The government's gonna change if you promise the board. And he's like, keep calling me, Said, tell me what I tell my board. And I'm gonna open a company in Saudi within 3 weeks. So yeah, so that's some of the reasons.
Well, so I want to quickly identify the series that have been published, the names of them. The first one, Navigating Saudi Expansion. Two, An Entrepreneur's Journey in Saudi Arabia from Bootstrapping to Big Bucks. Three, A Blueprint for Foreign Investment Success in Saudi Arabia. Four, The Truth Behind Saudi Landing Hard Costs. That's what you just discussed. Categorizing Saudi setup partners by soft costs. Saudi corporate annual operating cost explains, and understanding annual operating cost in Saudi Arabia. This again, these topics and the things you get into was why I thought it was really striking and really important, because these are the hard facts of doing business in Saudi Arabia, and most people, like that lawyer, trying to tell his board he can do it in 2 weeks don't know what they're doing. But it is exciting, and is it exciting to have all this interest? There's a lot of companies coming to Saudi Arabia. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, as I told you, I'm a player in this market, and I'm talking to at least 4 or 5 different governments or government sort of entities who want to now send the bulk of like 30 companies in Saudi, not just one company. So there's a government now pushing the companies to expand to Saudi. So definitely, and the publicly announced numbers last year, just the tech entrepreneurs license last year were 350 by MISA. That was announced by MISA. The minister, Khalid Al-Ansari, the minister of investment, has announced that we got all the way from 3,000 foreign companies in 2018, all the way to closer to 30,000 foreign companies last year. So that's a big number, right? So the facts are there. I think one thing I want to talk here, Richard, about one mistake that people make, a lot of mistake, because it has to do with attraction, right? People believe there's a lot of hype, right? Neom is there, Red Sea's there, a lot of giga projects going on. People, especially those come from the west side of the world, they believe that selling in Saudi is easy. It's going to be easy. We know all the thing. We have the knowledge. We're coming from the most advanced part of the world. And it's not easy. If you go to our second article, which is the journey from the entry to Saudi to all the way to big bucks, it's not easy to sell in Saudi, by the way. Everybody is here is trying to sell. It's very competitive. So landing does not mean always that you can easily sell. You need to understand how to sell in Saudi. And selling in Saudi is really a big issue. And one of the things I found, and this is advice for everyone coming, please don't underestimate the value of having a Saudi GM. I've seen people, I can give you 10 examples at least now of companies who struggled for 2 years. The moment they hired a Saudi GM or co-founder, if there's a tech startup, the sales go up. You need to have someone who understands the local culture. So that's very important to understand how to eat. Saudi has a lot of grants, a lot of ways to get in, to tie, but you need to know how to get into these circles or get the money.
I think that's a terrific point. And previously, a decade ago or 15 years ago, you needed to have a Saudi partner to do business. You can come in and do business without one now, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good business choice to do so. And that's directly to your point, which I think is on the money. Saeed, this has been a great conversation. Really, I know there's a lot you're leaving in the bag because there's a lot more that you're familiar with. But is there anything you want to add? Because I think this has just been really informative.
Actually, first of all, thank you. I mean, hopefully it's been informative. I think 2 things just to conclude here. One is, and both of them are advices, please plan properly. You need to plan at least 6 months ahead how to come in Saudi. I'm not talking just the legal side, so Saudi lending, I divided into 4 parts: the legal setup, the business development, fundraising, and all kind of fundraising, M&A or tech fundraising, or investment or JV or out kind of request. And the 4th one is the on-ground support, which is recruiting, hiring, building the company, all these things. Right? So plan properly, because a lot of things happen. People do a lot of wrong planning that I see. I've got people who already have the license. And when I look at the license, full of mistakes. There's a tech company, we got a license of logistic company, which is totally wrong. So that's one thing we understand. And the second thing is that Saudi is a different culture, right? For people coming from outside. So it's always good to come like upfront before you even think of landing in Saudi and like build the ties here for 2-3 months, 6 months. It's easy to come now in business visa or probably get most of the nationalities. So come in Saudi and try to understand the market, how this works. There's a lot of vibes there that people got here and they get stuck. I've seen people coming, and to be very frank, I've seen people leaving, shutting down. So that's why I don't want to hear a lot of people coming and then shutting down, to be very frank. I really want people to come and expand here in Saudi. And there are a lot of opportunities. It's just you need to spend good time, like 1 or 2 months of coming in the hubs and understanding how the market works. So that's the two things that I would advise, and hopefully one day Tawarif become in a way that we can support you in all kind of aspects, not just one aspect, which is in the legal setup. But yeah, but I think there are a lot of other smart people who are helping here.
Our guest today, Saeed Al-Ansari, who is founder and CEO of Tawaref, which is a fascinating operation and entity, which it appears to be growing and thriving. Saeed, this is gold. This is really good commentary and really good content. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Richard, and always, and thank you for your patience to make this happen. I know you took a lot of time, to be able to do that, and you're very patient actually. And thank you for audience of 966. Hopefully, we'll see you one day here in Saudi.
Absolutely, it won't be long, and it was well worth the wait, Saeed. I look forward to seeing you in person soon.